Take a little smoke in the evening, take a little whiskey on ice. I never get behind, killing my mind. It's just the kind of things I like, just the kind of things I like.
Welcome to episode 145 of Cowboy Shit. My name is Ted Stovin, my co-host once again, 2 weeks in a row, Mr. Dustin Edwards, and we're coming to you live. Well, not live, but we're coming to you from the patio of Pearl and Hart, a modern collective here in Drumheller. Dustin, this is the Sunday morning coffee hangout here.
This is the spot right here on the corner couch with the coffee table. Yeah, we're not live, but we're alive, and it's all
true.
good on the patio today.
And there's rain in the forecast.
Yeah, tomorrow we should be getting here. I'm supposed to go to Gleason for the Bronc match tomorrow night, and I'm sure as much as they don't want rain, they really want rain.
They need it at the same time.
Rain. We've had like 2 tents down here in since May 15th or something. It's bad.
Jeez.
So we're thinking of all the farmers and ranchers out there who are probably
in need of some rain.
Really needing some rain. It's getting ugly.
So we're praying for rain, and hopefully going to get a whole bunch tomorrow and the next couple days.
Yeah.
Next week looks like it's going to rain. Hopefully it slows down a bit by Ponoka time, by Canada Day. Where are you Canada Day this year? You back in Airdrie again like old times?
No, we're Canada Day parade for Barney's.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, we run the dinosaur truck. We have a Dragons event in town as well. So Drumheller is insane on Canada Day.
Really?
All the tourists come.
Fireworks too, or fire band?
Probably not many fireworks going on this year. The whole damn country will burn the ground. You light a sparkler right now, and the whole countryside's going down. But
is that your next one of your next ventures? Is snakes and sparklers?
Snakes and sparklers. I always tell Keenan Vine that he's what's the guy on
Kicking
Wing after he tried his career in pyro.
Yeah, in Airdrie that time.
Yeah.
At the bull riding. That was hilarious.
Yeah.
And Brinson's dad was a clown.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
He was a clown.
That was a funny day.
Yeah, and Keenan, I remember he lit something for the opening and it didn't light, and the rain started pouring.
Yeah.
So I called him Kicking Wing, Snakes and Sparklers. But yeah. So that'll be Canada Day. But a couple events coming up before that. But
Gleason, and what else you got the next?
Basano's having a pro rodeo this year.
That's right. Yeah.
And going to go down there for that, and it's nice because it's 70 kilometers from here. It's not very far.
Yeah, it's kind of close, isn't it?
Kind of close ones.
Yeah.
Like some new rodeos. It's fun.
Yeah.
See new things.
Tell me more about the patio here at Pearl and Hart, though. You were kind of getting in that, and I cut you off.
Oh, yeah. This is Allie's. Obviously, we've talked about Pearl and Hart quite a bit on the pod. This is Allie's store down here in Drumheller, but got a really kick-ass patio. I think it's probably one of the best patios in Drumheller.
It's probably one of the best patios I've been on maybe ever.
Yeah. And she has live music out here all summer.
Boots in the Hoots coming to you July 28th at 7 p.m.
Yeah, Boots in the Hoots. Come check it out. And they
there's
play
a Voss.
Yeah,
as well.
Toby
Voss.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is, but there's not many Vosses around with one S.
That's
might be
your
family
last,
of my grandma. So another story I'll get into later, but proceed.
Yeah, so she'll be here playing. Her and her husband. I went to school with her husband, and they own the Home Hardware in Alex.
Really?
Yeah. So shout out to them. But
he's a Voss.
No, he's a Anderson.
Oh, okay.
Maybe she just kept it for stage recognition.
I wonder.
But so the live music here is really cool. This fire table here, lots of tree coverage. As you can see, we get the shade.
It's very nice.
So this
considering it's 33 Celsius today.
Yeah.
For our American friends, it's almost 100, which is pretty awesome for Canada.
Damn hot. But it's a really cool little spot to hang out. We're in Drumheller, so come check out the Pearl Patio, and it's licensed.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not. I'm drinking root beer.
Yeah.
But
still
normally
beer.
you can have a beer out here, and
that's
wine.
Exciting.
Yeah.
That's exciting. So, a hell of a spot here.
Yeah.
I like it. I didn't even know this existed till today.
And you can get this new Drum Soda Works root beer.
Yeah, and then there's Valley Brewing too, right?
Yeah, Valley Brewing. So Allie has Valley Brewing here.
Yeah.
The brewery's in town, and they have they brewed a couple of beers for the Dragons.
Oh, cool.
So we got a Power Play Pilsner that we do with them, and a Reverse Retro.
Nice.
So it's and then there's a distillery that did this soda.
Really?
So this is Drum Distilling. They're gonna have gin, vodka, whiskey. But the first thing they launched is the Drum Soda Works. So they've got root beer,
cool.
blue raspberry, orange, and a sherbet or sherbet. What do you call it?
Sorbet.
Sherbet. It's a fancy word. I'm not good at fancy words.
Just making sure.
We got the dogs running loose in the patio here, but it's a dog-friendly patio.
Hey, that's exciting.
Allie has little treat bags for dogs in the store when you come.
Oh, that's cool.
Little water bowl usually out here.
Where's the other one? Oh, there it is. Okay, they're still good.
The dogs are on the loose.
It's dog-friendly because the dogs can't get out either, which is nice.
Yeah, unless you open the gate and let them run out like I did moments ago.
But that's okay.
But
They're practice kids, Dustin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we mentioned the Voss name, and that brings me back to this past weekend. So we were in Matt, the intern, and I were in Rocky on. We set up there. We left some stuff there Monday, then went back and set up Thursday morning for the Slack, which I thought started at 10 a.m. It actually didn't start till about 11:30.
Oh,
so we were ready early.
That's a first.
Yeah, and then the barrel racers ran, and then something bad happened. I think Jackie Ganter fell down and maybe broke her ankle or leg or something.
Yeah. So
barrel racing was canceled.
They nixed it from the whole rodeo.
Oh yeah, it was gone. Yeah.
Which that sucks, but
very fast rodeo.
Safety.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It was an hour 55-minute rodeo on Friday with 11 minutes of drill team.
Jeez, that's a quick one.
Yeah, it was very quick. So well done by Kale Eath here on the front of the chutes. But yeah, so Thursday Slack was all day Slack. I think Matt was there. I went and bought snacks. I bought $100 worth of snacks and cherries and vegetables and chips and jerky.
You're the guy that loads up the booth and then just pieces out,
and
or
then
what?
just left. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't tell Matt, but Denny and Kale and I went golfing in the afternoon. We went and got a quick
welcome
game
to
of
the
golfing.
welcome to the Cowboy Shit program here. Intern works Slack.
He works Slack.
Teddy golfs.
But I mean, it was pretty nice day, and those guys asked me, and I was like, yeah, I guess why not? Matt's got her under control, and I was trying to get him to learn. I want him to learn the program, right? So he was out there and did a great job, and get really comfortable with what's going on. So he even announced a few runs actually because Dave had to go to the
bathroom.
To the bathroom
That's
break, so
awesome.
Matt was announcing, and Matt's I thought it was so cool because Matt
I'm
said,
surprised that we'd let anyone on a mic at a rodeo in Rocky. That's not Dave.
After getting it last year. Yeah, Matt, the next day, I got him to play some music during the rodeo, and he did some of the chuck wagons. He probably did more than me. Well, he definitely did more than me this weekend. But I wanted to get him some reps in, and he was working with Dennis, and a great spot.
But you were training up because you had to take off, and that's what we're talking about, the Voss thing.
Yeah,
right?
So my grandma, Leslie Ann Voss, passed away on Friday. Would have been June, what would have been June 3rd, I guess, was maybe the 2nd. I forget. Anyways, it was right during Grand Prairie.
Yeah, right.
Mom called me Wednesday night. I was in London, right before the show. She called me at 5:30. The show was at 7. She's like, "Hey, Grandma's, in the hospital. She had what happened? Had a heart attack, and they said it might be fatal. So, that was Wednesday, and then by Saturday morning. Yeah, it was June 3rd. Saturday morning, she'd passed in the middle of the night. So Grandma was almost 92. I just saw her a couple weeks ago for brunch, and
so that's got to make a guy feel good, right? Got to see her, and
yeah, I felt a lot better.
That's
about it. Almost 92. Yeah,
that's some big years, right?
So I was just texting my brother, and he said I was trying to remember what her birthday was. I know it was November, so I think actually just let me double check here. It was November. So she was born November 5th, 1931. So
think about what people think about what we've seen
92.
in the last 20 years. Imagine being going through the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s.
Oh man,
even that her age group of people would have seen the most
changes
in the history of the world, right?
Yeah,
they witnessed horses pulling wagons.
Yeah,
to now robots driving them.
So actually, my grandma and Storm's grandma both passed away within a week of each other. So she was at her grandma's funeral Friday in Herbert, and then I had my uncle. Luckily, we got super lucky, and two of my uncles and one cousin are pilots in that side of the family. So my uncle knows a guy that had a plane, so they picked us up in Calgary and took us up there. We left in the morning, got to Manning, drove up there, and then we were back home in Calgary by 7 o'clock. It was
a quick trip,
pretty wild. Considering it's a 10-hour drive from Calgary, and I would have been danger on the highway trying to get up there and back from Rocky.
Yeah,
or
Manning's a haul.
Whatever. No, but her service was an hour north of Manning and Keg River.
Geez.
Right. So just unbelievable that they got us up there and back that way. But yeah, it was a really great service for Grandma. Everybody was way more sad than I was kind of expecting, honestly. But we miss her. And it's kind of a ending of the year because my grandpa passed away in 2016. But going back to the changes, her mom was one of the first doctors in the Peace Country. She's actually inducted into the Order of Canada. Her name is Dr. Mary Percy Jackson, and her letters were published from when she first came over there in the early 30s before my grandma was born. But like just some crazy stuff. It's called, I think, I forget what the name of the book's called, but Dr. Mary Percy Jackson's her name.
Okay.
But Grandma Vossel, there was this, I guess, a poem here on the funeral, kind of the program, I guess, of the funeral.
Yeah, funeral card you get.
The card you get. So it's called Don't Quit. So I thought this was cool to share. I thought it was pretty neat because Grandma grew up without running water. You know, born in 1931, grew up without running water. Grew up with, horse-drawn, like everything was horses back then. They didn't get power to the house probably till I don't know when. Like, unbelievable stuff.
Would have been through like the Depression and all that.
Oh,
stuff,
absolutely, right? So she was always reusing things and like never really got through that stuff growing up in the 30s, right? So this Don't Quit it reminded me of a lot of different things, but I thought it was pretty neat. I wanted to share it. So when things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. Life is queer with its twists and turns, as every one of us sometimes learns, and many a person turns about when they might have won had they stuck it out. Don't give up through the pace, though the pace seems slow. You may succeed with another blow. Often the struggler has given up when he might have captured the victor's cup, and he learned too late when night came down how close he was to the golden crown. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver tint of the clouds of doubt. So stick to the fight when you're hardest hit. It's when things seem worse that you mustn't quit. So the title of it's Don't Quit. I thought that was a pretty neat thing to put on Grandma's card there, right? Like, because she could have quit number of times, but had 6 kids throughout the years.
It had quite a life, right?
Oh, gosh. Did everything you could dream of, right? It turns out there was some stories about how she was an avid fisherman, and she was fishing up in Alaska with my uncles and my cousin, and like did a lot of fun stuff and traveled with my mom and all my aunts at different times, and like, yeah, but to raise 6 kids throughout I think my mom was born in 53, so had her first kid at 22 and at 23, I guess. Like, yeah, just
what a life.
Holy, right?
Like we'll never, I mean, obviously they'll never experience what we experience now, but I don't know, it's pretty tough to imagine growing up back then. Yeah. And like, I mean, it was simple times, but it was tough.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Like we're lucky.
Washing your clothes was going to get the water, heating up the water, scrubbing them against the scrub board or whatever the hell, like just unbelievable kind of life. So yeah, miss you, Grandma, but yeah, what a life, what a run.
And what a cool poem to talk about.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
Don't Quit, right? It made me think a lot about the rodeo side of things, right? About like what we do now and how, you know, Grandma took her horse to the races in Paddle Prairie back in the day to show off how fast her horse was, right? So yeah, she was ranchy and Grandma did cowboy shit, even though like I never. That
life back then was cowboy shit.
Everything was.
Yeah.
Holy shit, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I know it's a little bit off topic, folks, but thanks for listening and like we talked about, Storm's grandma was also a rodeo queen and she passed away this last
and did some competing in rodeo too, right?
Yeah,
Storm said,
right?
yeah.
So
barrel
racer, yeah, pole bender. Yeah, so
you guys got some good lineage in the cowboy world,
in the Western world,
cowgirl world, Western world. So, yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, I miss you, Grandma, but also what a life. So
yeah, well, it's cool you get to honor on a platform like this too.
And I'm glad that Matt was there, and then Bill Hansen works with Gord Bamford a lot on his tour.
Oh yeah.
So Bill was in Rocky Saturday too. I was calling around a bunch of folks. I was like, hey, I've got a guy like that's pretty new, and I was just hoping I get some help for him. And finally, I was like, oh, I wonder if Bill could make this work. And so Bill went and helped Matt on Saturday. So we had some more help. It wasn't just leaving Matt to the wolves by himself. Although it was Denny and Dave, they're looking after him. But I was just nervous. But then the power for the announcer stand cut out during the anthems. So Matt had like the absolute worst thing that could happen to him during the anthems. But like you can't do much about your power going down when it's running off a generator. Your temporary announcer stand.
I know, I'm cutting in here. That happened to us in Innisfil one year. I don't know, you might have been doing the music. Or maybe it was during the Innisfil Pro Rodeo. We also did a bull riding there for a while too, but there was a switch in the booth that cut the power. And Jack Danes came over because he wanted the lights on. There must have been lights where the VIP boxes behind the chutes are. And he came in, he's like, get those lights on. And he started flicking switches
Uh-oh.
during the short go
Oh, no.
and just killed all the power, speakers, lights, everything. She was gone. But he was in there just flicking switches
Just
and
flicking
yelling at
switches.
everybody and like right in the middle of a bull ride or something. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I remember the lights went out in Elnora one time during a ride. And there was Jared Parsons. They tried to give him a re-ride, but he made a good ride. They're like, no, just mark me. Like, they think that was pretty good. So
Really?
just go with it. Yeah. I think we have it on video.
I had the power go out at a bull riding in Edson.
And was it inside?
It was in the rink.
Inside, yeah.
And I grabbed a big orange like traffic cone. Had a little hole in it, and I just
Oh, no, really?
yeah. And then one year,
Remember Toefield when the power went out?
oh yeah,
And it was a video guy that just
Kicked
kicked
the
the cord out, and we didn't know. But I was like running
Yeah.
around like freaking out.
one year I went out to Tim Lipsett's parents put on that bull
Oh,
riding.
yeah.
What's it called? The
Craven.
Boys and Bulls
Oh,
or
but that
whatever.
was the Regina one.
Yeah, Bucks and Bulls.
Boys, Bulls, and Bucks.
Yeah, during Craven, and I was
Yeah.
out there for that one year, and like
oh, yeah,
it
you
starts
hit a
at
wreck
like
too.
it starts like 10 in the morning,
Kind
and
of like
same
Bulls
thing.
for breakfast and Camrose.
Yeah, and all the sound quit.
Uh-oh.
Go figure at a country music festival. And it was one of those deals where it's like this bull riding has to be done by this time because the stage starts.
Yeah.
And they're like, we got to keep this going. So like there's all these people around their pen. I went and walked through the arena, stood up on the panel, and just like yelled for like 10 bull rides. Like, here's so-and-so. Everybody cheer. There was
Oh,
no
gosh.
sound. There was no speakers. I just went and stood on a panel and yelled
Holy shit.
for like 10 minutes.
Jeez.
It's like,
Well-
it's a country music fest, guys. Plug me into the big system.
Yeah, just
Blake,
hook me up.
Take 10.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, man.
Sorry.
So,
Off topic.
anyways, lots of fun shit.
Lots
going
of shit
on out
happening.
There. Yeah. But this week on the show, I know that I previously had things to say about the Calgary Stampede, but my friend Will
What a segue.
Osler. Yeah, what a second. My friend Will Osler is the president and chairman of the board, and we've been friends for probably like I don't know how long now, but got closer over the last few years and get together for beers once in a while, like just get to hang out as friends. So for him to be the president now, it kind of
That's
was like
pretty cool.
he kept bugging me about being on the show. He's like, I don't know if I'm interesting enough to be on the show. I was like, no, well, like damn rights here. Like you got a lot of cool stories, man.
That's a
President of the
major
whole
title.
thing. Yeah,
That's a big title.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So this week on the show, Mr. Will Osler, current president and chairman of the board of the Calgary Stampede. He's also a partner at Bennett Jones in Calgary. We had a really good visit the other day. Actually, it's just I guess today's Tuesday, so it was on Monday. So thanks to Will for the time. We got lots of good news coming up in the second half. After the interview, we got a couple things I kind of forgot about, so we'll get to those. But thanks for tuning in. Once again, this is Cowboy Shit coming to you from Pearl and Hart here in Drumheller, Alberta. Co-host this week once again, Dustin Edwards. I'm Ted Stovin. We'll be back right after this. Welcome to episode 145 of Cowboy Shit. My name is Ted Stovin, and I'm here today in a very special room. Last time we were here at Steve's room, but this time it's Will's room because we're here with a partner from Bennett Jones and the current president and chairman of the board of the Calgary Stampede, Mr. Will Osler. Thanks for having us here in Will's room at the president's room at the Calgary Stampede. We've talked about this for a long time about you being on the show, and we finally made it happen. Here we are. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me. You finally were persuaded that some people would actually listen to you talking to me about things, so I appreciate that. And I wish I could say it's my room, but this is the president's plural room. So this is all the presidents, even though my family and I are trying to make it like it's our room for the next couple of years.
Oh, that's pretty. Well, so tell me. I can go back a few spots to kind of when I met you. I think that's got to be the start of the podcast here because I was doing the music for the evening show, the Stampede, and sitting with your dad. Your dad's Jock Osler. I think we got to go into his story a little bit first because I was sitting there and I got to work with him, and he was the nicest man and was so welcoming to me, and I was honored to be able to share a space with him. It was kind of wild because he was there, but there as almost essentially a backup role because all of his pieces were recorded. So we just kind of sat there and visited for the evenings. But one evening you show up and we get talking, and we've kind of been friends since.
That and COVID we kind of have to thank for that, right?
True.
No, Dad's story, Jock, far more interesting than mine. Unfortunately, he's not here to tell it anymore. But longtime Stampede volunteer, raised on a horse ranch in Bearspaw when Bearspaw was still country in the 40s and 50s. And he left the ranch as soon as he could get off a horse's back. He did, and never looked back. Had an interesting career, journalism, politics. He was a diplomat for a while, but his passion through his whole adult life was live theater. He was a big fan of plays and musicals, and really supported that community in Calgary. And when the Stampede came looking for someone to join our grandstand show, which at the time was very directly and closely involved in our grandstand show, he jumped at it. And after a few years of literally holding doors open for the young Canadians during the grandstand show, he graduated to become the voice of the young Canadians. And for the last 25 years of his life, that's what he did, and loved it. And I do remember when towards closer to the end, they fully automated the show, and his mic was no longer live each night. It was, his voice was already in the can, and he would show up with his mic, and he loved talking to people like you and anybody else who was by. But he was secretly hoping that the machine would go wrong, and they'd tell it. They'd point the finger at him. We need you. He lived for that. So that was that was his story, his Stampede story, and he really loved it.
So how did he first get started at the Stampede, though? Because that's essentially how you would have got started, because your dad was majorly involved in Stampede for a long time.
Not really. No? I mean, that's how it often works around here. But in our case, it was coincidental. The grandstand show had been asking him to join the grandstand committee for years, and for whatever reason, young kids, which obviously no longer the case, his career just didn't work for him. And finally one year, and this wasn't that long ago, maybe 30 years ago, he joined up, and quite coincidentally, a year or two after that, through my work, I had the opportunity to join up. And
so it's totally separate.
Completely separate. I mean, most people often think that there is that is, how I got into it, because again, there's so many second, third, fourth generation volunteers here, and because Dad, with his role in the show, within the Stampede family, was high profile. And I'm sure most people out there thinking, well, there's no way Will could have got there on his own. So there has to be some reason for it, but it was a happy coincidence. And then, my whole family they love the Stampede. They love supporting it. They're all here in Calgary, but of our family, my siblings and our kids, he and I were the only two that were involved in the Stampede in this way, and it kind of became a bit of a secret language or a private conversation for us for most of those years, and that was something that was special for us to share. What's
your favorite moment with your dad at the Stampede?
It was...
There can be a few. You can have a couple stories here, but I bet there's got to be some neat ones.
The easiest one, I'll never forget it, and this happens to be the truth, was the night in 2014 when I was elected to the Stampede board by our shareholders. And the Stampede is a corporation, and we have shareholders like any corporation has, and our annual meeting every spring is attended by our shareholders. And as you know, our volunteers are a passionate, committed group, and that includes upwards of 1,000 people showing up for our AGM. So I've had the experience of being up for the board and not having my name called, and that's not a great experience in front of 1,000 people or so. But this one year in 2014 was the year my name was called, and the meeting ended, and he was one of the first people I saw, and we didn't quite have we didn't quite hug it out to have a moment like that. That's not really how we were, but he was very proud. He was very happy, and then, and this is the reason I remember it so well, he immediately started giving me his list of demands of things that he wanted me to fix once I joined the Stampede board. So, yeah. And that list never got. I did check some things off that list, but it never got shorter, if you know what I mean. So,
what was the first thing you did?
Oh, I'm sure it was to extend him more favorable parking privileges, or give him, more Wrangler shirts that he could wear as in his role as the voice of the Young Canadians, or something like that. And I never did get him. I never did those two things for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was that was part of our running conversation for sure.
Huh. What about some of those nights at the grandstand show? What do you remember about those evenings and the different times where you get to see your dad and be in his role, and he did it as a volunteer, where a lot of people would, I guess some of those positions are paid by different people that do different things, but that was a volunteer position for him.
It was, and you'd never know it because, when, and it didn't start with Stampede. I mean, the Young Canadians, and he was always the voice of the Young Canadians. I mean, he voiced the show, but he really considered himself, and he actually had one of those red and white Stampede name badges that said as much, the voice of the Young Canadians. And the Young Canadians, I mean, it's only a few weeks before Stampede, so they've been rehearsing for weeks and weeks and weeks, and that's when the cycle really started for him. And we would know when the Stampede was coming up. I mean, I would know as a volunteer, but our family, the kids, the nieces, the nephews, they would know that Stampede was coming up because all of a sudden Granddad would stop showing up for recitals and dance competitions and soccer games because he was down here with his other kids and so. But I was already into my own thing as a Stampede volunteer and obviously an adult. So I remember. He was part of the soundtrack of the grandstand show and the Stampede for me, but. My what I remember most about that would be when my kids, adults now, but when they were young and I'd be bringing them to Stampede, seeing them, hear Granddad's voice, but see him with a mic. They had no idea that the mic was a toy, that the mic didn't work, but they, seeing them experience it was pretty special. It was pretty fun.
How long did he do it live for? Like, as the voice, like, how long was it live before it became a pre-recorded track?
I bet you about 10 or 15 years.
Oh,
those
so
were
half
10 or
the
15
time.
good. Those were 10 or 15 good
wow.
years for him too.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun.
Yep.
So
he loved it.
Oh, I bet. Well, I loved meeting him. I thought it was pretty awesome to get to sit with him, and we visited for. There was a couple of years that I sat with him there and got to be with him and meet you guys, and it was iconic though. His voice was iconic, and I don't remember the grandstand show recently, but I think that they still use his voice at times, do they not?
They did, and I didn't know this, and I wish I had because
Yeah.
it did catch me by surprise. The Stampede we had it, so he died in 2020 after Stampede that year, and they used his voice in 2021. And that was we didn't know. That was very, very nice of them to do. It was a real tribute to him. They didn't need to do it. I don't think they did it last year, and I think it's just as well. That 1 year tribute was nice, and it's time for them to move on.
But pretty special for that for his voice to live on,
Yeah.
like, because it was like any of the grandstand shows I've ever been to besides last year. I don't remember if I even went now. It's been a bit of a blur the last few years, but he was a major part of it.
He was, and it meant a lot to him, and when he died. He had a long life and had lots of different communities and friendships that he was a part of, and we certainly heard from the Stampede family, the big one, about it, and they had similar memories to you. They that's 20 odd years where they're hearing his voice, maybe more, 25 years where they're hearing his voice year after year. It was a very deep voice, and it worked for that show, and
tons
it was
of
part
energy
of their memories
too.
too.
Yeah,
Yep.
I remember that, like, tons of energy. Like, you could hear his passion in his voice.
It was, and there were years when his health wasn't great, and he was not going to be denied or deterred, and you'd see him shuffling up. Well, of course, it helped when the recording had been done 3 weeks before in a studio, in a controlled environment. But he rallied like so many people do when they're doing something like that, and he was not going to. In fact, I remember there was 1 year, somebody gave him, and it's at my mom's house now. It was just a microphone, a real microphone, mounted on a wooden block, a kind of a trophy, and it had some inscription on it. And they had a nice little ceremony for him right at the start of the grandstand show. Walked out on stage, and he said a few words, and there was a bunch of family and friends and Stampede people waiting for him, and we almost kind of formed a bit of an impromptu color guard for him at the edge of the stage where you walk down that ramp. And he came off the stage, a young Canadian on each arm, holding the mic, and I was at the top of the ramp with my mom. And I won't repeat what he said word for word, but it was something like, if you think you're getting rid of me with this,
not a chance.
Let's just say that's what he said. So no, it was incredibly important to him, and he loved it, and it was a big part of his life for a long time.
So you mentioned that you got into the Stampede on the volunteer side through work, and I was doing a little bit of I was reading up on a few things. And is it R.B. Bennett, or who is the founder of Bennett Jones?
R.B. Bennett.
R.B. Bennett. So R.B. Bennett and Bennett, well, I guess maybe prior to Bennett Jones, but there was something where the Stampede lost the title to Stampede Park, and then I think in 1922, I think R.B. bought the land and then gifted it back to the city with the terms that the Stampede would have a forever lease here.
Exactly.
So there's got to be something a little bit to that where Bennett, like obviously Bennett Jones is a major sponsor and has been for a long time of the Stampede, but and you're a partner of Bennett Jones. So tell us about some of that story. And I don't know if I got it totally right, but
no, you got it right.
Wild.
And I can add a couple of things. And there's one part I'll add that kind of, makes it for less of a good story because there's more coincidence to this than you might think. The other part of the R.B. Bennett connection is that, and people know this, in 1912, the first Stampede, Guy Wiedeck, the founder, he wanted participation from the First Nations of the area, the Treaty 7 Nations. And at that time, it was against the law for Indigenous peoples to leave their reservation, wear their traditional regalia, or even speak their language. It was against the law, and two people went down to Ottawa to lobby the federal government to allow those
in
1912 allow those restrictions to be lifted so that the Treaty 7 nations could participate in that first Stampede. One of them was R.B. Bennett. He did the job. He must have liked Ottawa because 20 or so years later he was back there as the Prime Minister of Canada. But then the part about the 20s, and I don't know exactly when it was, when the Stampede somehow lost title, he did step in, and that's very true. And I've said this many times, and our firm, Bennett Jones, is they like the story, and it's a nice fit when we start talking about the Stampede to have me there, and I think about that firm. It's an old firm. We celebrated our 100th anniversary in 2022. We're a pretty big firm with offices across the country. We even have people down in the States as well. But we're the only major national firm in the country which started here in Calgary, and that's important to me. Something I'm proud of, and when I was thinking about this in coming into the role I'm in now, there's really a nice shared history between that organization and this organization. Obviously, both are a huge part of my life because we did grow up together. In 1922, it was not a 300-person law firm. It was a few guys in downtown Calgary, such as it was at the time, and the Stampede, much the same. The Stampede was not. In fact, the first Stampede, I was going to say the Stampede was not thinking about 100 years of anything. The first Stampede, again, started up by Guy Wiedeck and the four wealthy cattle ranchers. Now I might get these names wrong. Burns, Cross, Lane, McLean.
Mm-hmm.
He pitched the idea, and the whole advertising, the whole idea was
the last Stampede,
a farewell to the vanishing West. I mean, the railway was coming was already here. Fences were going up, and all of, and you would know about this a lot more than I would, but so much of that old way of cowboying was, the thought was it was going and never to be seen again. So he was not thinking. Bennett, nobody involved, the Big Four, none of them would have been thinking about it the way they are now. It was a year-to-year deal. In fact, the first one was in 1912. Second wasn't until 1919.
And then the next one was until 23, wasn't it? Or did they do a few in the early 20s?
I think you're right. I think 2023.
2023 would have technically been the 100 straight years of Chuckwagons, but we lost 2 years, 2020 and 2021.
Right.
So technically now it's 2025.
Every year is 100 years of something.
It's true.
By now.
Yeah.
So the way the two organizations have grown up, that appeals to me, and it I'm not sure I could be doing the role I'm doing here at the Stampede without being at a firm like Bennett Jones, or without being at Bennett Jones. There are no other firms like it. So it's a really nice fit for me.
So what's the origin though? How did you get involved on the Stampede side?
Oh,
through work. You said through work.
Through work when I was at a completely different firm.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I started my career at a different firm, and one of the partners there was a volunteer with the Stampede, with the courtesy car committee. That volunteer went on to become the president, and I think he must have thought I didn't show much promise as a lawyer, so let's find something else for him to do that might look good on a resume. And he
Get
asked,
involved in the community.
Yeah, and he asked if I wanted to be on the courtesy car committee.
Who was this? I don't know the story.
A guy named Mike Casey.
Okay.
And Mike, a community builder, a leader in the city, and has supported and been a part of many organizations, Stampede included. And it was through that connection that I joined the Courtesy Car Committee, one of our many volunteer committees that make the organization go. And that's where I started, and it was a pretty fortunate bounce for me to get involved with that.
Well, and why? Like, why volunteer? I read the sign downstairs about the Calgary Stampede having the finest volunteers, and it started out as a 1 year, 3-day show, and it's turned into the greatest outdoor show on earth. So why? Like, what's the passion behind the why, and why volunteer? Why spend all this time for no money for this? Why is it?
I think it's a good question, and you think I'd have an answer for it, but I don't have one in my pocket here. I'd say a few things, though. I mean, one, in our family, there was always something going on. Dad was involved heavily involved with the Stampede. He was involved heavily with provincial and federal politics, and
we should probably mention that too. So let's go into that a bit more quickly.
Sure.
You worked with Joe Clark in the Yellowhead riding on the federal side of things, but your dad worked with. And you were there when, tell us a little bit more about the political side of things. I think that's an interesting sidebar here.
Sure. I mean, it starts, probably the genesis of that is the fact that my mom and dad had too many kids for a journalist's salary to work.
And who did your dad work for in the journalism
He
business?
worked for the Calgary Herald.
Yeah.
I started out in the Herald, and then was involved, worked for a newspaper that's no longer around called the Financial Times of Canada. And he, that was a great career. He loved it. For his whole adult life, he described himself as a journalist. But he left journalism in the early 70s, shortly after his fourth child, my little sister, had come on the scene, because it just didn't work. So he got into communications and public relations for the oil patch, and as a private citizen, he was able to indulge one of his passions, which was progressive conservative politics, and that ended up starting a couple little side careers for him. He did go to Ottawa to work in Joe Clark's Prime Minister's office in the late 70s. Later on, found himself as a diplomat working at the Canadian Embassy in Washington, and it was all because he in his spare time, he was passionate about that, about policy and the game of politics, and he enjoyed it, and that's my brothers and I, we all remember, it's a Saturday afternoon, and we're gonna jump in his car and drop flyers off in people's mailboxes, and there'll be pizza at the end of it for our trouble. And I can't say that at age 10 or whatever age I would have been that that started an interest in extracurricular activities, but that was something that was in our house, and so many people have a similar story. Now you're in elementary school, and you're on the student council that puts the movies on in the gym on Friday afternoons, and it just continued, and without ever realizing it, I by the time I started volunteering here, there had always been something. I'd always been doing something else. That's the first thing. The second thing is that's kind of a Calgary thing. Calgary has always been a hotbed of volunteerism. Stampede's a great example. The Winter Olympics in 1988, a great example. It's a thing that we do here, and I guess the other thing, and I don't know, I can't make this not sound self-serving, but my profession, the legal profession, we know that we're not going to win too many popularity contests out there, but that profession is very community minded. I work at a big firm, and pretty much everybody has something that they're involved in, and that's independent of their career and independent of their work at the firm. It's just something they like to do, and so those are three places I came from: my family, the city of Calgary, and the legal profession. They all kind of point you to something like this.
And what have been some of your highlights on your Stampede volunteer side of things? Like the volunteer, you're putting in the work and you're doing the time and you're driving people around in the courtesy car committee, and you're probably making pancakes and flipping pancakes and serving breakfasts around the city, and you're traveling more lately. It's been traveling on behalf of the Stampede as an ambassador of sorts, and different, seeing the different events around the country. We're talking about Pendleton at lunch, and you're going to Cheyenne later this year, and you've been to the NFR in Vegas and Houston and San Antonio. I think you've been to San Antonio recently, or maybe going. Or
that's on the list for the spring.
On the list, yeah. Yep. So, what are some of those highlights? And this year, I think one of them has to be picking the parade marshal, which I haven't seen who it is yet, or I don't even know who it is yet. But that's going to be coming soon.
By the time this podcast is publicized, the parade marshal will be known. But
really?
As of now,
by Wednesday.
By Wednesday.
Really?
Yep.
We can't.
That doesn't allow me to say anything about it.
It's probably cool to pick that person and talk to them.
Pretty cool. Yep. Pretty cool.
Can I make any guesses on who it is?
You could.
Pedro Pascal.
All I said is you can make some guesses.
That'd be cool. That was a good show. Did you watch The Last of Us?
I did not. No,
you didn't?
I did not.
I wouldn't have watched it if it wasn't filmed in Calgary, but it was pretty neat to see everything in it.
It's we're aware of the petition to draft Pedro Pascal, and we're well aware of his profile.
Shania Twain.
Shania Twain.
She has been already, right?
Shania Twain has not been the parade marshal, as far as I know.
She's on tour though. She's busy that day. Maybe. I don't know. I'm trying to make some good guesses.
Lots of so to answer your question, that it's. I mean, I get asked that one a lot, and I can give you a lot of different answers for my Stampede highlights. I'm going to give you one very obscure one, but I think you'll like it. But
when McDonough fought a bear on the stage?
No, because that's not my story. That's Steve's story.
Okay, that was fun.
There's the high profile stuff that's fun. Riding a horse in the parade, provided your horse is not in a rotten mood.
Yeah, you want to tame one.
Is fun.
Yeah. Because you haven't won that award yet, though.
I have indeed.
Are we allowed to talk about that award, or is that off the record?
Go ahead. No, it's as far as I'm concerned, is that information is in the public domain.
There's a board. There's a award that the board has that somebody has the Nasty Steed Award.
It's called the Gnarly Steed Award.
The Gnarly Steed Award. So all the board of directors, if they draw a bad one, then somebody can win the Gnarly Steed Award.
It is.
You have a bad time in the parade.
My first year.
And one time Toni Dixon won it, didn't she? She's a professional barrel racer.
Yes, I might have been part of that story.
Sorry,
yeah,
Tony.
It's actually it's a funny award because of course the board is big. We're close to 30 people. Very few expert riders. I'm certainly not one of them. And for reasons that I think I understand, no one wants the award. They just don't want that. I mean, they don't want that notoriety.
Yeah, true.
So, which is fine, but so now they're going to spend 3 hours of being super tense,
which doesn't help
on a challenging day for these horses. It's hot, it's loud,
People
the shadows
everywhere.
by the building, all that kind of stuff. So, we should maybe my objective this year should be to, turn that into a positive. But I remember I won it, and I mean. The good news is that it wasn't even close. I mean, I won it. I think I won it before the parade even started.
You didn't get bucked off, did you?
I did not get bucked off.
Okay, then that's
pretty good
though.
But it was but King, my horse's name was King. He figured he was leading the parade.
Oh,
so they kept and that year the parade marshal was William Shatner, and Shatner did not
appreciate that.
Well, he didn't ride that day. He was in a car.
Oh, okay.
And I think King figured, well, there's an open spot there for a horse to be in front of the thing. So, and the wranglers and the parade committee people walking along kept telling me what to do, and my answer was, I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm trying that.
It's not working.
It just didn't work. So, but that's fun, and things like this past weekend in Okotoks, we had the NMAX community roundups, kind of the first official pancake breakfast at the Stampede. I got to go up there and say hello, and I enjoy that kind of stuff. But for me, the personal highlights are kind of and I think this is the same for everybody, the quiet, unexpected moments where you have a conversation with someone that you never would have imagined meeting, and you remember it for whatever reasons, or heaven forbid, you might leave park and go have a glass of wine with your wife when you've got a clear hour or two.
Because you don't have many of those either.
No, so those are. And then, then there's stuff we do that I really like what we do. Like, for example, BMO sponsors something called the BMO Farm Family Awards. It's on the Monday morning, every Stampede. You can figure out what it is.
My grandparents won it when it was a Northlands Award, because it's an Ag Society Award. My grandma, who just passed away on the weekend, her family, they got it in like 1953 or something.
And that's a big deal.
Yeah, big deal. They don't give many of those out.
And so we host the 25 or so winning families in the Palomino Room, which is our nicest facility for that kind of thing. And it's a great breakfast, lots of entertainment, and the families, I think, are appropriately recognized. And what the Stampede board members do, I haven't been able to do as an executive, but did for my first 5 years on the board. You sign up and you will host one of these families, and I would love sitting at those tables, talking about things that I don't talk about, and meeting people that I would not normally meet, and seeing, and you know better than I do, these are not families or people that go out looking for this kind of stuff. None of them applied for this award, right? It found them. So I enjoy that, but none of them top my favorite Stampede story, which is from 1975. And so I know you know this, but the Hart wrestling family I'm related to. If anybody was watching this right now, they would have a hard time believing that, because there is no physical resemblance. But it was my Uncle Stu who was the promoter and owner and everything of Stampede Wrestling. And they used to have their shows in the Victoria Pavilion every Friday night. The Victoria Pavilion, of course, is a livestock auction ring. That during the 10 days of Stampede, I won't say we, because it was 1975, the Stampede needed, and we still use it for that kind of thing. So the Stampede would kick Stu out of the pavilion for the 2 Fridays of Stampede Week and rent to him the corral, much bigger, and so he would need to have higher profile shows and bring in higher profile talent. So 1975 was the year that he brought in Andre the Giant, and Andre wasn't doing much when he wasn't wrestling, so Uncle Stu brought him over to our house.
And you were a little kid back at that point. Wasn't there a picture of you on the couch with him, and he was a monster?
He had eaten all the sandwiches.
Not all the sandwiches.
He had eaten all the sandwiches. We had convinced our sister to come out of the closet upstairs where she was hiding, and by this time she's sitting on his arm, and me and my younger brother are sitting there with Andre.
Ted.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not named after you.
No.
And our older brother John he was the one who took the picture, and it's a rotten picture. He's a terrible photographer. Good lawyer, but a terrible photographer. So, that is. I don't know if it's one of my prized possessions, but I like showing people that, because it's just not something that they can comprehend. They would see. So that of course, at the time I was little. I won't tell you how old I was.
You don't have to tell me now.
But it was. I mean, I was not clued into Stampede. It didn't feel like a Stampede day. It was July of 1975, and I was at home watching TV or whatever,
hanging out with Andre the Giant.
And that was.
Was he there for both shows? Like, was he here for a week or just one?
Oh, he would have been here for both.
For both of them, yeah.
He would have been here for both.
So, like, in between, you guys are just hanging out at the house.
Yeah.
No way. What do you remember of that besides him eating all the sandwiches?
I remember. So Stu, he drove Cadillacs. That was just exclusively Cadillacs. That
As
was
a
just
wrestling promoter, that fits.
It was just his thing. I'm sure there's a lot behind it. And I remember, and we would know when he would be coming over, because there's not a lot of Cadillacs in the neighborhood. And the sidewalk at my mom and dad's house was not. It wasn't level to the and it was you had to climb up the driveway a little bit. It wasn't level to the road, so you had to climb up over the curb. And we were watching. I mean, by this time we know Andre the Giant, maybe without knowing really who he was, other than there's a giant coming over. We knew he was on his way, so we're all at the front window watching, and we see the
How many of you?
Oh, it would have been all four of us.
Yeah, and you're just looking out the window.
Yep.
Oh wow.
And we see the car. We see this mass in the back.
Did he jump out of the back seat?
Well, he didn't
did
jump.
They take the front seat
He didn't
out?
jump. No, he didn't jump. But the first thing we noticed was the back of the car scraped the sidewalk on the way up, because it was so weighed down by Andre.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, he was a big.
Jeez.
Biggest person I've ever.
Did he say much? Like, do you remember? Like, were you small enough to not really remember like conversing with him? Or
he was very friendly. He was a friendly giant.
Yeah.
And I mean, he wouldn't have been very old at the time.
Yeah.
And English wasn't his first language. He was from France. And there was a lot of people to talk to before the kids there. But no, he was very, very friendly and very nice. It's kind of a strange memory, an odd memory, but it's a good one.
So I wrote down about Bret and Owen and the Stampede Wrestling days, and like those guys were innovators and creators of what the AEW and the WWE are now. And we were supposed to meet at Hitman's bar over at the casino. It doesn't open till 4. I might have to go over there after now to go check it out. But
let's take our time with this, and then we'll roll right over.
Go right over there, yeah. But talk about that and growing up around that. Besides your Andre the Giant story, there have to be a few more other pieces where you were. Actually, I have a story for you. I don't know if I've told you it much, but our PBR ticket manager now, his name is Bret Hart, and he spells it the exact same way as your cousin.
One T?
Yeah, one T. So Brethart, and they have the exact same name. And Bret told us a few times about how he would show up to a show and he would go check in, and they'd give him your cousin's room, and he had this huge penthouse and like have the craziest rooms. He's like, oh, I got Hitman's room again, right? Like they had the exact same name. They both worked for the WWF at the time, and Vince McMahon, and and this was probably what would it be, 10, 20 years after the Andre the Giant story. Like it's progressing a long ways along the way, but you're an adult at this point. Like I gotta ask about that and what it started out as here at the old like little arena over here, going to where they were on the world stage and major players in the business. Like what was that like growing up with that?
It was. I mean, if when the kids on the playground found out that I was connected to that family, and the connection is pretty close. I mean, their mom Helen, my mom Diana, sisters. So that makes you first cousins. And when people found that out, first of all, they never believed it. But second, yeah, that was. I mean, that gave you. I mean, in the 70s and 80s in Calgary, I mean, you weren't here, and even if you were, you weren't here. The Flames weren't here. The Saddle Dome wasn't here. Nothing was. I mean, 3 channels on TV. It was a different life. But now, I mean, you find yourself talking to anybody from Calgary, say age 45 to 65, usually males, and wrestling comes up, and immediately all those Stampede wrestling stories, everyone's experience. Comes out because that's what people here grew up with. I mean, you know, we did not, when we were kids, we would occasionally go watch the shows live. Not that much. I mean, Dad was busy and probably no fun dragging 3 or 4 kids down to the wrestling. When we did go, it was pretty cool. But we would spend time with our cousins the way people spend time with their family, and this was just a bit of a different family where you'd go up, and I don't have any direct memories of this, but at one point Stu was tired of buying milk for his 12 kids, so he bought a goat, and they drank goat's milk for however long, and then there was another time when sometimes the wrestlers coming through town would just stay with them while they were working. If they were here for 3 months, 6 months, whatever, they would just stay at the house. It was still there, but a big old brick house on Broadcast Hill. And part of this wrestler's shtick was a bear. So the bear lived under the front porch for a period of time.
What?
So
oh my gosh,
you'd go
in town.
Yep,
there's a bear there.
You'd go to this house,
a trained
and it was
bear.
just
A real bear.
a bear. Yep. I mean, it was a black bear. It wasn't a grizzly or a polar bear or anything like that.
Yeah,
so
it was tame. It
so-
didn't eat anybody lately.
No, but
Yeah.
it was different. Not too
Holy
many other friends whose houses I would go see were quite like this. So that was great memories. They're good people. They're great people. The nicest people, most generous that you'd meet. And that business is a tough business. They've had, no end of sadness and tragedies in that business, that family. But they're lovely people. Most of them, of course, Stu and Helen are gone, but most of of the 12, there's 8 surviving. A few of them are still in Calgary. We see them, that connection is pretty special.
What about more recently, like when they did get up to the higher ranks? What were those? What were those memories like? Or were there many? I've never asked you about this before. We've talked lots of times, but we never really got into this side of things.
There's 2 that come to mind. One is, and this just tells you something about that business. So I was in university here in Calgary, but I was living in Ottawa for a summer job, and the WWE or WWF, whatever it was, came through town, and Owen was part of it. Owen and I were about the same age, and we were friends, and so I arranged tickets to go through him to go see, and I took some friends there, and we were talking in the days leading up to it, and he was asking about where I lived and asking questions like that, and I realized that he was looking for a place to crash, and
Your cousin was.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Because they weren't making a lot at the time.
well, no,
probably.
he was making a lot.
Oh, he was.
But Owen was a little bit different. I mean, he was more on the mid part of the card, or even the lower part of the card, which meant the money wasn't quite the same, but it was work for him. And I remember him telling me, I get to a town, and if I can, I'll take the bus to the hotel. If I can, I will share a room with other wrestlers.
Holy.
The hotel's got to be close to the gym. So it was just he was working to get as much out of it as he could.
Sounds like rodeoing.
I'm sure it does. And then the better story, but this is also.
So did he stay with you, or did you say,
in the end, he got called to another show the next night, and then literally went, finished his match,
Got on the bus.
Got to the airport and off you went.
Went to the next one.
The second story is a better story, but it's also kind of a sad story because it was a Stampede year, and the WWE was here, and at the time, this would have been sometime in the 90s. The main storyline was the Harts. They were it was an interesting story because it kind of had two sides to it. They were feuding with whoever, and the idea was that the Harts, led by Bret, they were there for traditional family values and old school wrestling, and they didn't like how it become more tawdry and more salacious and all these things. But because they were Canadians, most of them, and whoever was on the other side were Americans, they kind of flipped the script depending on which side of the border they were on. And when they were wrestling in the States, the Harts were the bad guys, and when they were wrestling here, the opposite. And so, again, the show was, and it was a TV broadcast at the Saddle Dome, and my family, my mom and dad, my brothers, we went and we're watching this match. It ends with the good guys winning, and then we work our way backstage down by the dressing rooms after, where these wrestlers who had just been pounding each other are now having a beer together and kind of, again, I'm sure like rodeo, kind of reviewing what just happened and figuring how they can make it better next time. And we roll in and the way this match ended is the extended Hart family, so the siblings and their kids, something happened outside the ring where maybe the mom got pushed or something like that, and then the whole family jumped over the barriers and jumped into the ring, and they pounded the bad guys, and the broadcast ends with just nothing but family members in the ring, with the bad guys having been vanquished and back to the room, and they look at us as we roll backstage and they say, "Where were you guys?"
No
way.
way.
Well, what do you mean? Well, you were supposed to be in the ring with us.
No way.
That would have been good to know.
No way.
Yep.
Nobody told you?
Nope.
Or did your what?
No, if they did, they told the wrong person, because we
No
did not
way.
we did not get that message.
No way.
That would have been pretty cool.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that would have been really cool.
Unbelievable. I wonder if we can find the video of that somewhere back in the archives.
Well, you won't see me in it.
Yeah, I won't see you in it. Holy smokes. No way. That'd be unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow. Holy smokes. That'd have been cool. You could have took a chair and smashed somebody. Like, you think you would have been in on that or what?
It's hard to know. It's hard to know when the lights go up what you're going to do.
Oh man. Well, I wonder. I was going to ask you who the tougher kids on the playground were back in the day. You used to beat them up before they were big wrestlers, or not?
Definitely
really?
not. No.
Definitely not. No.
I mean, Owen and I, as I said, same age, and the rest of the boys were all at least a few years older. And when you're a kid, those few years make a difference. So no, Owen was the only one close in size to me, and I would have known better than to try him on.
With them and all of his 11 brothers and sisters.
Yeah. So no,
Holy.
we would go up there and try to impress them with our debating skills or something like that. So.
We talked about the Hart side of things. We've talked about a lot of the Stampede side of things, but I guess you've probably been asked this lots too. But what are you most looking forward to in this next kind of? I guess you got about a year. Almost 2 years, I guess, till March 25. But what are you most looking forward to besides this big announcement that you can't tell us till Wednesday?
Well, I guess I can answer that in two ways. I mean, again, there's no end to fun stuff, and this year, some close friends of mine, my best friend from university in Ontario, we met close to 40 years ago. He is bringing his whole family out, and they all live in Southern Ontario. He's been here to a Stampede, but it was a long time ago, and the rest of his family hasn't been. So showing them, something that I'm obviously heavily involved in, but my whole family is really as well. I love doing stuff like that, showing it off to people that wouldn't otherwise see it, and being able to share with them some pretty cool experiences from a board standpoint, which is really the focus of my role. Anybody who has been on Stampede Park lately will know there's a lot going on here. We're across the street from the $500 million expansion of the BMO Center, our convention facility. That opens up in about a year's time. And
before next Stampede?
Just before the Stampede. The current schedule, and we had been on time and ahead of budget from the start, is June of 24. And just making sure that the organization, and I'm just one small part of it, is able to, take advantage of these opportunities and move forward, and be successful in the future. I mean, that's the job of the president and chair, and looking forward to, late night board meetings in November, December, January, dead of winter. I don't know if that's a real answer to your question, but that's really why I'm doing it, and that's the important stuff, and yeah, I'm looking forward to that too.
So tell us a bit more about the BMO. We talked to Joel here, I believe, last summer before Stampede time, and talked about how Stampede is such a major part of it, and you guys are essentially running the building. It's a $500 million building. It's going to make Calgary a Tier 1 convention destination in North America or the world. Probably the world, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Calgary, Southern Alberta, Western Canada. That's a part of the world that is attractive for a whole bunch of reasons. It's close to the mountains. Calgary's a beautiful, dynamic city. It's a safe place. The country is a good place to visit. So yeah, I mean, we've always had convention and conference business here. We're just able to do it now, or will be able to do it now on a scale that we haven't been able to do it on before. And I've seen some data on, the number of conventions we've booked now for a facility that's not open for another 12 months. And, it remains to be seen. The doors aren't open yet and the lights aren't on yet. But, the plan and the job of the board is to help make sure the plan is pursued and achieved, is for this to be a major part of what we're doing for the future.
Oh, wow. So how does that fit into the Stampede side of things? Like, if we're talking about the 10-day show, because a lot of folks, we've done a few shows like this before with the Stampede, where a lot of folks that might listen to our show might think the Calgary Stampede is exclusively the 10-day rodeo and chuckwagon race and festival in July. But the Calgary Stampede has a major footprint in downtown Calgary, 365 days a year. How does that fit in? The convention's going to go on year round, but Stampede time that opens the door for a lot more trade show space and a lot more convention, like a lot more space to do a lot more things. What does that look like on that side of things?
Well, it remains to be seen.
Both sides.
I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, we talk about ourselves as a year-round gathering place for the community, and yeah, I mean, right now the park is busy because of the building being finished. It's already close, at least on the outside, and there's a petroleum show on right now, and the park is busy for that reason, but it's also busy with high school graduations and big weddings come here.
Like how big? Like big enough for Storm and I?
I'm not sure. No, I don't think so. I don't think that's possible.
Someone wants to have a smaller wedding, so it was a good joke. Moving on.
Do you want to turn with the mic, Storm? You can rebut that yourself.
I think you guys made the list, though.
Perfect. If it's the really long list, right?
No, it's a short list. Yeah.
So, I mean, you're absolutely right, and you do go to some of these other shows that you mentioned, Pendleton and Cheyenne and stuff, and Houston even. Yeah, I mean, they do focus on their festival, and that's, I mean, that is a major part of our focus. We would not be able to do the things that we do, supporting 4-H, supporting the young Canadians, all that kind of thing in the community, if we didn't have, let's call it the bank account that the Stampede gives us. But it is a big footprint, as you say, in the heart of the city, and it would make no sense to us to just leave it padlocked for 50 weeks of the year. So we use it, and with this facility opening up, that should help continue to pursue that vision of being that year-round gathering place for the community.
Well, and then I don't know what you can share, but we got a new hockey venue in the works, and I don't know. I've never really asked you, but what was or is there no? Did you have anything to do with that, on the Stampede side, or?
Well, we did.
You did, right?
We did, yeah. Because the new event center.
You're part of the deal now, and there's a land swap too, right?
Part of the deal. The land that it's roughly 10 acres just to the north of where we're sitting right now.
Is that the Remington lot, essentially, or south of that?
It's between here and those.
So it's the other two parking lots.
There's and a little bit to the east of it, closer to our youth campus.
Oh, okay.
And that's all Stampede land.
Yeah.
And so yes, we were part of it, and a bunch of my time when I was first stepping into this role in late March was spent on, in being involved in or being one step removed from those negotiations. It was fascinating. There was lots of times when it looked like there was no deal to be had, and so fascinating, but in not a good way. Obviously, in the end, the deal got struck. Lots of work to do still to get to shovels in the ground, but
some
very
of it was
exciting.
already done though, right? Like some of the ground, like some of the seismic, like some of the engineering maybe on the ground side was already done, or did that venue change now?
So I think it's fair to say that because we all came fairly close to getting a deal done a few years ago, that some of that work can be made use of for sure. Some of the definitive binding agreements, not the most exciting stuff to a lot of people except me, and so much of that work can be used again, and I know that they want to move aggressively. And
get it done
and
quickly.
Get the team moved into the new facility. As part of that, and this is very significant for us, the Saddle Dome will be demolished as soon as the new event center is open. That land gets returned to us. It has not been part of Stampede Park except with an arena on it since the very early 80s.
Oh wow!
It'll change our footprint dramatically. I know Joel Cowley, our CEO, is very excited about that. In terms of what we might be able to do on that side of the park, and it'll be. I mean, it's a couple 3 generations of Stampede goers that do not know a Stampede Park without the Saddle Dome there.
Yeah.
So that'll be a big
Wow.
change for us.
What are the initial thoughts? Like, I don't know what you can share or not at this point, but I'm kind of curious. Like, from my time working in the GMC Stadium up in the eye in the sky, that's kind of like it's an older venue now. No, like I'm not super nervous, but it's like I'm like I wonder. Like I hope this thing's still good. Like I know it is, but it's like that thing hasn't been updated in I don't know how long. I wonder what that might look like. Like, are we going to get a new Stampede Stadium essentially, or I don't know. I'm curious what the initial thoughts are on that area.
I think. I mean, one good thing about GMC Stadium it was built at a time when facilities like that were built to last.
Okay, good.
So there's a lot of concrete, a lot of metal, and I think it's pretty rock solid. I would love to get sit down with Joel in an unguarded moment to really pick his brain on all the things that are on his wish list. I know of a few things. I have not heard him say that it's time for a new stadium. But if you're not, I mean, if you have to have these conversations, at times when they need to be held, and as we're thinking about the Saddle Dome coming down, maybe we do start to have those conversations. We'll deal with how to pay for it and what it looks like another time. But I would say, in the near term, I would not expect the Saddle Dome to be replaced by a new rodeo and chuckwagon facility. That's probably not on our to-do list, but
Fair.
But it sure would be nice.
Sometimes. So what else is in the works there? I'm not even sure what what you would do with that space. I don't know at all. I mean, I guess you're going to have some more parking space. So unfortunately, the less interesting answer is it's maybe parking in the short term, but because we're going to lose some space north of here, right? But I don't know.
I mean, one thing, and Joel and I and our board, we have not started to have those conversations yet. Maybe we don't want to jinx ourselves. Maybe we want to wait till we see shovels in the ground for the new event center. But somebody, must have been Joel, he made the observation that, that side, that the far side from here of the Saddle Dome is basically on the Elbow River, and he's right. And if you think about the layout of Stampede Park, I mean, the Elbow wraps around two sides of us, but it's really not part of our programming. Because the barns are back there and it's kind of back of house. Part of the youth campus to the northeast of us, is fairly close, and it's an unimpeded border with the river there. But it'd be pretty cool if we could, take advantage of that spot with the river right there and see what kind of programming we could put there. I mean, a wine garden overlooking the Elbow River sounds pretty cool to me.
Maybe a river float station? That could be kind of cool.
I should be writing some of this down.
I always thought it would be fun to take my bucking horse floaty and just ride it down to the park and then come in at the rodeo tent and go to the rodeo like off my floating horse. But that'd be always kind of fun.
Well, you'd have to find a place to hang your wetsuit.
That's true, yeah. That could be
or your Speedo. I'm not sure.
Could be tricky. I don't know if I'm invited over in those parts anymore. I guess we'll see.
Come in with me. Put a fake mustache on.
Dang, that it's interesting. I didn't even thought about the space though yet, like on what would happen. But I mean, if you're losing 10 acres of parking, you got to get some space back for people to have a place to park. Because the new event center is going to need some place for people to get to and from it. Although the green line is going to help on that side with the LRT system in Calgary, some of the more public transportation.
It should.
Yeah.
And the earliest the Saddle Dome would be demolished is
26, right?
No, the earliest it would be 2028.
Oh wow, okay.
So we've got some time.
Yeah. Okay. You'll be past president almost. You'll be
I'll be a has-been.
A has-been by
I'll
then.
have been a has-been for
a while,
for a number of years.
So you start on the courtesy committee, and then I might be remembering wrong, but at one point, director responsible for rodeo. Is that correct? Were you ever in that position?
Yeah, I was. So.
Well, I guess what was after courtesy car too? I wanted to kind of.
So
get
courtesy
to that.
car. I think looking back on it now, I think what they do on that committee. So a courtesy car committee, as you might guess, is a group of volunteers. I think the number is something like 150 now. They and other shows. I know Houston have services like it. It's a courtesy car for sponsors and entertainers and guests of the Stampede, and GMC, which is a long time and very very, very good, valuable sponsor of the Stampede. They supply a fleet of really tricked out Denali's and stuff like that to let these drivers shuttle people around in style. And I think at a certain point, after about 10 or so years of driving, they realized I'm a pretty terrible driver. So what do you do? You it's kind of the reverse Peter principle, right? You take someone. You take someone who's not qualified and promote them. So that's where I went, and our governance cycle here is generally on our volunteer committees, likewise on our board. 2 years as second vice chair, 2 years as first vice chair, 2 years as chair. I did all that, and then it's not a given, but oftentimes when you've finished, when your Stampede resume looks like that, and you've now chaired one of our committees. The nominating committee of our board will have a look, see if you merit consideration to be on the board, and the nominating committee did, in my case, and it wasn't immediate, as I said before. the first year I was on the ballot, the shareholders decided it wasn't my time, and then the next year, and that ended up having a stampede where I had nothing to do. It was pretty liberating and pretty fun.
I'm kind of looking forward to that this year.
Yeah, well,
myself.
I don't think you'll ever have nothing to do.
Well, less to do maybe. Yeah.
Well,
a less official role.
2023 Ted and 2013 Will could have had a good stampede then.
Yeah, it's true.
So then the next year they saw fit to call my name, as I said before, and I've been on the board since. And then what we do, so we have roughly 29 volunteer committees at the moment. That number fluctuates. And each committee has a member of our board assigned to it to be what we call the director liaison. You help them. You help them with, aligning with the organization's strategy. You help troubleshoot for them a little bit, and you support them as best you can. And yeah, for a few years when I was on the board, but before I was part of our executive, I was the DL, as we call it, director liaison for the rodeo committee. That was fun. That was a great experience, and met a bunch of great people who I consider myself good friends with, and I would have been very happy to stay in that role forever. But once you're in our executive, that's no longer an option for you. But that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun.
And so I remember talking to Dwayne, Katie, and Rob Grundy, and Sean Monroe, and a couple of these guys, and Brian Hansen on the rodeo committee. We talked about kind of being a part of it at some point, but I don't know how it would fit at some points. And then I kind of shared some of my thoughts on some things this spring. So I probably won't be working in any capacity in the Stampede in the near future, which I'm totally okay with at this point. But on the volunteer side, though, I'm still helping Brian with the Pioneers Rodeo.
Yep.
It's going to be a breakfast kind of brunch event this year. And
I hope I get invited back this year.
I think that you're on the list. I think Brian has you on the list. So I'm looking forward to being a part of that. I appreciate the history of the rodeo side of things, and there's a whole bunch of stuff in my basement still from Dwayne Erickson that
right.
From when he passed. I have 2 huge cases of stuff that Storm hates moving around because I haven't taken the time to go through it all yet. But there's some gold in this.
Why do you have that stuff?
I don't know. Keenan ended up giving it to me. It came from his house. Somehow Keenan got it, and Keenan is less of a rodeo historian than I am, so I have it all at my house still. Huh. So there's all this stuff from Dwayne's, and knowing what he did in the rodeo world, a award-winning journalist, and I was not an award-winning journalist, but I have interest in the history. So I appreciate that part of it. And Brian came to me at one point and asked if I would help out with this. So I went through the list, and I've looked at who I think is qualified. And this year we came up with our Pioneers of Rodeo on both sides of things, right? So, anyways, I'm glad to be part of that, and maybe someday we'll end up helping in some capacity on the volunteer side, because I am as a citizen, as a Calgary resident, I appreciate what the Stampede is and does, and I have my, public issues at times with how some things have been handled. But I mean, everybody's going to have their opinions, and I might have been more open to sharing them on some different platforms. But anyways, what I'm trying to get at is that there's I appreciate the volunteer side of the Stampede, and I don't know how it'll fit very well, but I mean, what would you tell somebody else that's looking at maybe being a volunteer on the Stampede side of things? Where does someone even get started? I don't even know where people get started sometimes.
So I have this conversation with a lot of people in my office, new summer students and new articling students. It's no secret at my firm that I'm involved with the Stampede, and at least a couple times a year I will have a younger member of our firm asking that very same question. And it's probably a different answer for them than it would be for you, because you're not going to go on the Western Showcase Committee and be on the quilting subcommittee, I don't think.
Hey, maybe.
Maybe.
My grandma was quite the quilter.
Well,
I've never sewn those, so.
Okay, well.
Except a gear bag one time for rodeo.
I'll hold that thought. But what I say to them is, it's not, and this first part has nothing to do with the Stampede and everything to do with them. You got to make sure it works for you. It's one thing to be somebody who's been doing lawyer stuff for 30 years, like I've been, to be able to and with adult kids and all that, to be able to make it work. But if you're just starting out in your career, and young family, whatever else, you got to make sure it works for you.
It's a huge networking opportunity, though.
It is.
To get to know people in the city and make more friends in kind of a place if you're new to the city or whatever it might be.
Well, and I mean, we talk about this at our board. I mean, it's almost, it's not quite a, reaffirming things, but I always tell people that I joined the Stampede, whatever I said about, my interest in volunteering is all true. But when it came time to looking at the Stampede, it was, I joined up to have fun and meet people. And that has to be the reason. Networking is a big, huge part of that. But what and so make sure it works for you. And that's the case for anything, in your community, coaching your kids in soccer, whatever it is. And then if you've kind of checked that box, have a look at what the Stampede has to offer in terms of volunteer opportunities. And that's all publicly available. It's all on our website, or people can just call me. And if there's something that looks interesting to you and looks like it might fit your life and your interests, then pursue that. And in your case, you've kind of got that part already checked. I don't see you as on the quilting subcommittee. I'm not even sure we have one.
Shearing committee or something.
I don't know if we have one of those anymore.
No.
But for you, I mean, you got a lot of runway left. You're nowhere close to the end of your career, and the Stampede's not going anywhere. So
true. Yeah.
So whatever you have going on with the Stampede, Ted,
hey, I don't have
maybe
anything going on with
maybe it'll be
Stampede.
sorted out one day.
I think it's a fresh slate at this point. Right?
Maybe this podcast is a first step.
Yeah.
In the right direction.
Yeah.
A different kind of reconciliation.
Yeah, a different kind. Another water break.
Your producer is
She's
not sure what she's saying
my-
right now.
Questioning my thought process right now.
I think she's laughing. I think Storm's laughing with us
Yeah.
and not at us.
Not at me.
But I'm often wrong about that.
So we talked about bringing Hugh and Billy down to the show, and Lisa. I've seen everybody at lots of different events over the years, but where are they at with the Stampede? Besides having an awesome time right now, when they're late teens, early 20s, kind of enjoying that side of the Stampede.
Right. Well, I'm going to give myself a little bit of credit because my timing has been excellent.
Yes, that is very true.
Being 23 and 25, which is what they are now.
Yeah.
And having a parent as the Stampede president, I think is a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I bet.
Because they love Stampede. I mean, I started volunteering before Lisa and I were married. We were together, and obviously before the kids. It was even before I got called to the bar. So, I always say Stampede came first. It doesn't come first, obviously, and Stampede is when people say something's in the water in your house. I think you can say that about Stampede in our house. It's always been something that has been a focus for us, and it's gratifying for me that they like it so much, and their friends and our extended family. So, and I think often about how when they're little, obviously they're little kids. They're not hitting Nashville North or anything like that. But
you hope not, anyways, right?
Not that I knew of, anyway. I should say that better. So when they were little, it was the kids rides, and we'd be in the barns looking at the animals, and Stampede it's a very dynamic organization. For an organization that people say doesn't change, we sure change a lot. But you change with it, and so that's as the kids have gotten older. They had their first jobs here, which is a bit of a rite of passage for so many Calgary kids, and now that they are young adults, they're able to experience it in a different way, and I like seeing that. And for both of them and my wife Lisa, they are supportive, very supportive. They're protective of me, and it's a family affair, and the four of us We'll be doing lots of stuff together, including with friends and family. But the four of us will be doing so much of this together and supporting each other, supporting me, and that does mean a lot. If I can't imagine, if Storm didn't like what you were doing, you couldn't do it.
No, wouldn't work.
But here's Storm being a very big part of it, and same with us, and same with anything. It would be not just not fun, but it would just not be possible if they weren't a part of it as they are, and the fact that it works their ages and their interests, just makes it such a great fit, and that's something that anytime that I'm able to share it with my family, it's special for me, and this will be 10 days of that, and I'm looking forward to that.
10 days plus, and then you said we were talking a little bit earlier about how many requests you've had for people to come stay at your house. We used to have a really, really full house during the Stampede time. It's kind of tapered off a little bit more, it seems like, but I don't know if Storm's invited anybody I don't know about yet, or what that looks like. But how many people have you had to decline already from having a full house?
So that's Lisa is the gatekeeper there, and I'm not actually sure at the moment if any of the spare beds, rooms are booked.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of. Our schedule. We had some very close friends from Toronto come out last year, and they're coming out again this year. They're not staying with us this year. This is Sue and Steve, Rebecca, and oh gosh, I'm forgetting Emma. I don't know if Will's coming. But they stayed with 4 of the 5 stayed with us last year, and it was great. But I didn't see them after the first night because I'm on a different schedule.
You got to do a bunch of things.
So it's kind of hard. It's hard for them. But what it tells me is maybe I need a bigger house, maybe I need a smaller house. But what it tells me more than that is. This year even more so than last year, but last year was also this way, but a pleasant surprise. People are traveling. People are coming from other parts of the country to see, what is a really world-class festival. Mm-hmm. And obviously the fact that, for this brief period of time that I'm in my role, they've got a connection to Stampede that they, wouldn't otherwise have, might give them a little bit of motivation. But that. I find that gratifying too. I'm proud of the Stampede, obviously, and I like being a part of it. But when I see people, making the effort, making this their summer holiday, that's pretty neat too.
The festival side, it's almost like having the Olympics here every year. Essentially, like we kind of have the different parts, like the different pieces of the event, and there's so much to it: the fireworks and the midway and the shows, but the rodeo, again, we kind of talked about a little bit earlier. The rodeo is kind of the premier piece of the puzzle out of that, and then some of the concerts too, right? We got Pitbull coming this year, and there's some of those other pieces. But but the rodeo, we kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. What do things look like that way this year? What do you know about it as far as it paid out? Like I think it was $50,000 the last year, and there was one in 21. Yeah, so 21-22 has been $50,000. So we're trying to get back to that $100,000 paycheck for the main winners someday, I think. And then when we get back to that with these profitable events, we kind of had to dig out of a hole there after the COVID years because it was such a, there was so many losses on a year and a half. Well, one totally missed Stampede and another one that was kind of halfways, right? So
which left us roughly $30 million in the hole.
$30 million in the hole. Holy smokes! So, and a good year, the Stampede generates what kind of like. For a non-profit, what kind of profit it actually happens?
Oh gosh,
like the best years maybe 10 or something. Like, or I don't.
It's
even,
not.
I don't even
it's
remember.
not a huge number, no.
Yeah.
But of course, was two things. When you're a business that's centered on the gathering of people, which we are,
and you can't do
in
that.
a global pandemic, you can no longer do that very thing. That hurts your bottom line. And as a not-for-profit, we don't have a cash reserve built up
because every year it's got to all go.
We zero it out.
Yeah.
So that was tough. So this year, I'm pretty sure that the big check on the final Sunday, and I love handing those out.
Oh yeah, I bet.
is still 50, big number. But I mean, everybody involved with our rodeo would love for it to be a bigger number. There's no question about that.
Yeah, to get it back to the 100,000.
But we are moving to to those 3 pools. We're not doing the semifinal Saturday anymore, which I think the competitors will appreciate.
Save trip back.
Well, and so much is riding on a single ride to qualify for Sunday, and this way it can be a larger body of work, if you will. More athletes are here because we're doing 3 pools.
Do you think that dilutes the competition at all, though, having more people?
I don't, because there's a lot of good cowboys out there, and our invites are out, and we know who's coming, and we're super happy with who's coming.
I haven't seen that listed. Has that been released yet?
I don't know if it has. I've seen it.
Yeah, but you can't tell me who the parade
I'll tell you who's coming right after you see the parade marshal announced on Wednesday morning. So those are some enhancements, some refinements we're making to it, and it's interesting, going through some of this. And of course, I don't sit down with our CEO Joel and plan out the rodeo. That's not that would be bad for everybody if I did that. But
it's a different department, just so people know. Like, you're not the one planning the rodeo.
No,
like there's full-time staff that plan the rodeo.
Yeah, and it would be bad for everybody if that was my job.
Could be fun though too.
Could be, but Joel, you probably find yourself in whatever pool you want, Ted.
Yeah.
But Joel Cowley, he and you know this, former CEO of the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. His background is on the livestock side, but he's very connected and passionate and interested and well known in that world, the ag side and the Western event side and the rodeo side. Obviously, he has no experience with chuck wagons before coming north, so I love his energy and passion about the sport, his knowledge of it. He and I are going to go watch Colts Buck in
Thursday,
Pollockville
right?
on Thursday afternoon, which will be a new experience for me. And I think for these things that we talk about, rodeo and those events, he's the right person in that chair right now because he understands it. It's a priority for him, and it is for us. And I think that will continue to be a Stampede Rodeo is the Stampede Rodeo, and we would not be the Stampede without it. So, everybody knows that, but having Joel as our CEO, I think is to our advantage, and it's good for the sport.
What about the chuck wagon side of things? What does the future of chuck wagons look like after this 100-year anniversary of the first chuck wagons here at Calgary?
So, I mean, the who knows what the future is, but I would say that the health of that sport right now, and the health of the Cowboys Rangeland Derby, are part of it, is very good. All of the top drivers are coming this year. The tarp auction in April was a huge success. We've never had
less wagons,
for fewer wagons, but we've never had a bet. And so the aggregate number doesn't really count anymore because we can only compare it to last year.
Yeah.
But the per wagon number was high. The media attention was excellent and positive. I mean, the crowd in the Big Four that night,
great.
you guys were there, was fabulous. So
that's where we created our Cowboy Shit beer, actually.
Is that right?
That's where we talked to Dan about it, I'm pretty sure. I think that's one of the first chats was Dan Allard at Cold Garden was like, hey, what do you think about a Cowboy Shit beer?
Should there not be some sort of finder's fee for the Stampede in this then, or what?
Well, there's a logo that looks kind of like a Stampede logo on the can.
That you've got like the intellectual property rights to?
Yeah.
Sure.
So it's like we're giving you a little CS on there. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So
if I can get those home without anyone seeing them, then those are all mine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, chuck wagons. It's what's as you said. I mean, this is the 100th anniversary of the first chuck wagon race in 1923. Also, the 100th anniversry of the first pancake breakfast.
Oh, really?
Because these drivers.
There used to be a thing with the pancakes.
Well, they were doing nothing. They drove their rigs downtown and they just had these impromptu pancake breakfasts, and so we're celebrating both of those things this year.
So, technically, this would be like the 100th consecutive without the canceled year. It would have been the 100th consecutive Stampede.
Yeah, and we're
it's a bit mixed up.
I'm saying the 100th anniversary. We are saying 100 years of chucks.
Yeah.
There's some great stories there. The history the family's involved. I mean, I love all that. We're telling those stories, and we think it's the right thing to celebrate at this time. And
we've got some cool buckles in the works too. They're on the way. Yeah, like there's 100 years of Chuckwagon buckles that is coming through Lamley's through Montana Silversmith. So
good to know.
It's on the way. It's on the way. They should be shipping actually really soon. So
if you want them in before July 7th.
Yeah, they're on the way. But sorry, I cut you off there. Go ahead.
No, I'm good.
Good. We got your this room's booked here pretty quickly, so we've got to get. I'm kind of thinking about this because I think the Calgary Stampede means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and I think if you asked every committee what their definition of the Calgary Stampede was, it would be different. Similar to how we ask everyone what their definition of cowboy shit is. And sometimes I could think a lot of what the Calgary Stampede is cowboy shit in the middle of the city. Like people get to do cowboy shit, and you get to wear a cowboy hat as a lawyer downtown in Calgary, and it's not out of place. It's like it's not weird that you get to wear your hat to the office any day of the week ever because you're part of the Stampede, which I think is an amazing thing for a city like Calgary. And it makes me feel at home being able to wear my hat and not get a weird look like I did the other day in London when I was wearing my cowboy hat, right? It's less weird.
Good on you for bringing it over.
Yeah, right? But I just think that's really neat. And I wanted to ask you what your definition of cowboy shit was, but also what your definition of Stampede was, because I think there's kind of a little bit of crossover.
Oh, tons of crossover.
But curious what you think.
Tons of crossover.
And your definition, because you've listened to the show before.
Sure.
You know it's coming.
But before that, I did bring my hat to Dubai once.
Really?
Did
you get it back though?
I did get it back.
Oh, you made it home with it.
I made it home with it. They didn't confiscate it. It got a
Thoroughly
lot of
searched.
attention in the Dubai airport, the Seattle airport, and one other airport.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think the people that saw it had never seen one before and never one since. But weren't you or Keenan trying to bring rodeo over to Dubai once years ago?
I had we had Tarek on the show. We talked about it a little bit, but then I did have an email at one point and I had a couple conversations with a place in Pakistan about doing a bull riding event over there a couple years ago. And they have done them in the UAE, I think somewhere. There was a guy named Dave Rice that did something over there.
Right.
But yeah, then I guess the other side of this year is we should get a lot of the Asian and a lot of the European tourism people coming back to Stampede, which hasn't happened the last couple of years either, right? It's gonna be a big boost.
We don't know. No one knows what's going to happen. I mean, we're kind of close. We're down to wondering if the weather's going to be good, bad, or sideways. But there are some things that we see, some things we can track that give us an indication of what this year's Stampede might be like. Our premium ticket sales, infield seats, and
they're gone.
They're gone.
Yeah.
The hotels are telling us, and I guess they know this because of the origins of the credit cards that are being used, but a lot more inbound tourists coming this year during that time, and the Calgary airport and the work that WestJet is doing. That you've benefited from recently.
Thanks for not canceling our flights.
Calgary is that's this is where WestJet is. This is WestJet's home, and this is their hub. And you can come to Calgary from a lot of different places now.
Direct
in a single direct flight, and they're doing it. So
Tokyo, yeah.
So those are good signs. Yeah, I mean anybody who's looking for infield seats right now, probably not good news for you, but no, it is lots of good signs.
Come and hang on the tarmac and drink some Cowboy Shit beer if you want.
Yep.
Although it won't be allowed on park. But anyways, back to the definitions quick before we wrap it up.
So I don't know if I have a definition, but I have a lot of thoughts as I think about this question, which I know you'd ask, but I probably don't have a great answer. It's things like doing the right thing the right way, finishing what you started. Being a trusted friend, being a good neighbor, being a team player, and being true to your word. Those are all things that we do talk about at the Stampede, and those are things that I think, and I wouldn't be here if I didn't. I think those are what the Stampede is about. It's also what you should teach your kids and how you should try to carry yourself in whatever you do for a living. But those are the things I think of. I mean, I think this is when I think of Cowboy Shit. it's not just the name of your various businesses, but what you and Storm are doing with this podcast and all the things you've been doing, all the great things you did when COVID dealt you a bad hand. You guys live it too. But those are the things I think about, and those are things that are important to us at the Stampede as well.
Well, thanks for the time. Thanks for having us here, and thanks for welcoming us into the president's room to record another show. And I don't know if it'll be one of the last ones we get to do. I don't know any of the incoming presidents, but we'll see.
I can make some introductions.
Yeah,
you won't have a problem.
See if they want to be part of the show too. Well, yeah, we've been talking about this for a long time, so I appreciate you doing this. Will, thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great Stampede this year. I look forward to seeing you there and being able to visit during the show. It'll be a lot of fun.
Looking forward to it. Let me know what you think of the parade marshal too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I wonder who it's going to be. Awesome. Okay, well, thanks again. Once again, President, Chairman of the Board for the Calgary Stampede, 2023 to 2025, Mr. Will Osler. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks, Ted. Thanks, Storm.
Can I kick it? Yes, you can. 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 Well, I'm gone. Can I kick it? To all the people who can quest like a tribe does. Before this, did you really know what I was? Comprehend to the track force, why? Cause getting mentions on the tip of the vibe buzz. Rock and roll to the beat of the funk fuzz. Wipe your feet really good on the rhythm rug. If you feel the urge to freak, do the jitterbug. Come and spread your arms if you really need a hug. Afrocentric.
Once again, thank you to Will Osler for being on the show this week. Thanks for the time. Thanks for having us down at the Stampede Park. It's going to be different. For both of us this year, I guess we're not officially working at the Stampede. I'll still be doing a few things with the Montana Silversmith side of things. Go and make sure the buckles are all merchandised properly and with Lamleys, and hoping that we got lots of our cowboy shit down there this summer as well. But one thing you won't find on park is cowboy shit beer, because that's exclusively a what do you call it? Budweiser, like
yeah, they would have like
Labatt's, right?
Yeah, they would have like the rights, the
pouring
event,
rights, right? Yeah. But so we're just launching it on the next show. We're actually recording on Thursday with Dan Allard from Cold Garden, because we got the Cowboy Shit beer made by Cold Garden coming at you. It's almost time.
Have you tasted it yet?
Yeah, I've had a few of them.
Is it
already.
good?
I like it.
Man, that's when you know you've made her. When you got your own beer. I mean, come on.
Barney's beer yet? I know you got the Drumheller Dragons beer. We were talking about that on the top half of Valley Brewing.
Yeah, Valley Brewing made us a beer, and really, they just already had
Power
the beer.
Play Pilsner?
They already had the Pilsner, and then we just called it Power Play.
Well, that's kind of what...
And just put a sticker on it.
That's kind of what we're doing, too.
It's a real smoke and mirrors sort of deal.
Our beer is a lager, and you may have had it before with different things, but yeah, it's going to be a lager. It's 5%.
So you can
it's got some nice flavor to it.
Drink it casually. You can probably play beer darts with it.
You might be able to.
Shotgun some.
Maybe.
Some shotgun mulligans.
Oh, man. Isn't that a good idea?
Oh, yeah.
So I saw this video the other day, shotgun mulligans. So it's the country club adjacent guys that are hilarious.
Yeah, they're
some really
great.
Good golf content. So shotgun mulligans are, you can have, there's a set amount of shotgun mulligans you can take. There's probably like, what, half a dozen, I would guess?
Yep.
Like just guesstimating. Maybe 3, 4, whatever it is. But you can have like, you can shotgun a beer if you want a mulligan in this golf match. So you can have do them early on, but you might get pretty messed up for the second half of the game. So I don't know if I could do that many of them. Too many craft beers can kind of wreck a guy.
It can wreck a guy.
Pretty hard.
We'll try
but
it.
Yeah,
try a couple Cowboy Shit shotgun mulligans.
So what was I going to say?
But you got the big launch.
Yeah, the launch. Yeah, on the 22nd of June. So it'll be just after when the show comes out, a week and a day after. June 22nd, Cold Garden, 6 p.m. You can make it down, come check it out.
It's gonna be awesome.
We're gonna have our beers in cans, so you can buy them to go, take them with you when you leave. Come party with us for a little bit though. Come and hang out and say hello. But yeah, Cowboy Shit beer coming at you June 22nd, Cold Garden.
Was that the eventual next thing?
What do you mean?
The merch and everything. Was it I gotta have a beer?
Well, actually, you know what? It's kind of something I thought about that would work pretty well, but we were at the tarp auction for the Stampede I just flown back from Denver that day. I was down there saw a baseball game and a hockey game in Denver, and saw my crew, Jade and Patrick from Montana Silversmith. So we did did those games, and then I flew back and made it to the tarp auction. And Dan was there, and I was like, "Hey Dan, what do you think about a Cowboy Shit beer?" He's like, "Yeah, I like that idea. Let's talk about it." So then we talked about it. That was in April, I think, April 12th or 13th or something. And sure enough, here we are.
2 months,
2 months
almost
later,
to the
and we
day,
got a beer.
That's gonna be wicked.
Yeah,
wicked awesome.
Yeah, so it is cool. So I've had the cans. We had them in Rocky last week. I gave a few different people a couple cans to try. I can't say that I don't think Jimmy Lawrence was much of a fan of it. What else? I gave Tyler Thompson a few before he went home. Kale had a couple. He liked them. Who else? I don't know. Anyways, we have a few.
Yeah.
Have a few
well,
out there.
People that do Cowboy Shit like beer.
Yeah.
generally.
So they should like this beer.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's what's going on there. Eddie, you're going to where? You said Bassano, and then what do you got coming up? You kind of probably slower on the rodeos for a while, hey?
Yeah.
Get to Barney's to be full on open here later in June.
Yeah, Gleason, Bassano, and then I'll take a couple weeks as we get Barney's opened up. Then I'm flying out to Morris.
Oh, yeah.
Going out to Morris this year.
Oh, cool.
So we'll get me and Dave. So we get a nice little
fun.
string of a couple tour rodeos. Morris, Medicine Hat Stampede.
Who used to do Morris? Or this is one of the first times I've had two guys?
No, I think Dave's done it.
Was it a local
solo
guy?
for a long time. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So I'm gonna head out there. Really excited to go work with that committee.
Yeah.
Me, Dave, and Brian Gutman.
Oh, right
Rockin'
on. Rockin' You Productions. And
Yeah.
Brian was just in Brooks with you, too.
Yeah, we worked together in Brooks. It was funny because he was talking about, he was like, I remember when you were first announcing back in the PBR days, and that was before you were into music.
Yeah,
you were
that's
there
right.
filming events, and he was the sound guy.
Yeah, that's right. Then I took all his jobs.
He took all.
Sorry, Brian. I took quite a few of them.
He's got no hard feelings.
For sure.
Ah.
Maybe some hard feelings.
He's pretty good. He was awesome to work with in Brooks.
I like Brian.
That was my first time doing that rodeo, and Brian's done it a couple of years, and we had
Kind of
some
new
fun.
management, right?
Kristen and Ryan Geyer kind of run it all, and they don't have a big committee because that used to be like a big Kinsman
About two
thing,
people.
right? Yeah, and they work their butts off. Like
Make it work.
we started slack at 9 a.m. went till 4 o'clock.
Oh boy. And then Perth was at 6.
And then they would work the beer gardens
Holy.
till 3:30 in the morning.
Holy smokes.
So tip of the hat to them.
Yeah,
Good
way
work.
to keep it going.
Yeah.
Rylan kind of, honestly, retired early from the bronc riding world,
really
but
early, and
didn't really want to do it that bad.
Yeah,
He was
he won
unreal at it.
Won 2 titles, didn't
Yeah,
he?
he was unreal at it, but just one of those guys just didn't really want to.
Yeah, and now he's a
crazy.
big part of the Big Stone outfit.
That's right.
I think he flanked everything on the weekend. And,
Really? Right on.
And so
Well, good for them putting on the show, and congrats on a
Yeah.
good show. It sounded like it went really well. They had a good crowd on the Saturday
yeah,
there, hey. And
busy rodeo weekend everywhere
Rocky was
between you
solid.
guys and Rocky and
Sean, our editor, was in Lee Park with our friends Doug Young and Brett Gardner.
yeah.
Dave was with us over there.
Yeah.
Denny was there. We had him on the show previously. And
Yeah.
Denny was pretty happy because a lot of folks had listened to the show and told him about it. So I thought that was pretty cool that folks are listening.
That was
and,
really cool.
and staying. Staying.
Our buddy Gator was
on
up
the
in
Oh yeah.
up in northern Saskatchewan at
Lake
Burns.
Waskesiu.
Yeah,
8 seconds at the Ridge. Yeah.
yeah. He
with
said he
Brinson
said it went awesome. Him and Brinson and Robert.
and
So
Robert.
they had a
Schmidt,
great
yeah.
time.
Yeah, so busy weekend.
Man, everybody in the
everybody's
everybody in the crew here
doing
was
stuff.
was working. Yeah, it's great to see.
Yeah. So and then what do we got? I got Regina next Wednesday. PBR Canada Cup Series resumes in Regina.
Is that the last cut before kind of summer?
Well, it's just like a month because we go to Kelowna right
Kelowna
after.
and right
Yeah.
before Morris.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because
yeah.
Dave's gonna go right to Morris, I
He
think,
is.
from Kelowna.
Yeah.
So, what else? Yeah, Kelowna. Then we got Bull Boston coming up. Pinoka Stampede.
I seen Bull Boston's
Before
all
that-
sold out already.
Oh yeah, they're
Insane.
sold out so far ahead.
That's cool.
Yeah, Pinoka, and then this morning actually I was doing scripts for Strathmore,
Oh, nice.
like production sheets for Strathmore to send to the Cowboy channel because they're looking at timing and how everything's gonna fit. So, getting that dialed in.
And we'll have a quiet Stampede week. The Gator not going to be there.
Yeah, so we've got it'll be a little different for a lot of us.
You,
Sean's
me.
going over to the Chuck Wagons like we talked about maybe before, maybe we didn't, I don't know, but
We might be sitting on the patio drinking Cowboy Shit beers and
which will be totally
know.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm honestly looking forward to it. Just like Will said, he had a year off in 2013, I think he said, between something. He wasn't on the board, like wasn't elected to the board, so he had a year off.
yeah.
And this might be one of the only years off. I don't know. It might be a thing I do quite a while. I don't know. Whatever. But yeah, like looking forward to just being able to go to TP Creek and hang out with Doug and Robert up there. Looking forward to taking it easy and kind of going back to what it was like a decade ago.
Yeah.
Remember
the year that Calgary Stampede was canceled and all of us at work Stampede, we went and rented a big lake house
in
Pine Lake and cruised around on the boat, water skied.
Yeah, that was fun too.
Yeah, that was fun.
So it's nice to do different stuff. And yeah, it was a thing for a long time, but looking forward to getting some golf in that week. I'm signed up for the Snips Saturday Snips League.
Oh, okay.
First one I'll get to make is this weekend.
That's cash money pots, right?
Yeah. So finally get to go to Snips. I'll do that probably once during Stampede 2, I guess. I'll miss the Pinoca weeks, but I'll be able to go. Yeah, I'll be able to get a few in. So.
Oh, it's gonna be a good run. When's the PBR at Pinoca? That's on Canada Day?
Yeah, is that Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's right. So yeah, looking like gonna be a heck of a summer stacking up.
Heck of a June.
Got like 5 weeks stacked up. After Stampede 2, we go kind of like Teepee Creek and then right to High River foremost, Kelowna, like I said. Then High River Chuckwagon's the second weekend. But in between that, Storm and I are going to go down to Cheyenne for on 2 days for the first time.
Nice.
Going to go see that. Pollockville, what else? Then Strathmore, then right to Dawson Creek.
Yeah, it's a big run.
So there's a bunch going on there.
This year, Strathmore and Pollockville aren't on the same weekend, right? Yeah,
nice,
that happens every few years.
Yeah.
Medicine Hat and they all split up.
Yeah, kind of nice. So
yeah,
looking forward to that, but going to be a busy one.
Big summer. Beers,
here we go.
Cowboy Shit.
Yeah.
Is happening.
Just keep on rocking. So we the next show, like we said, is going to be Dan Allard from Cold Garden, recording that one later this week. Dustin will get caught up on that if you are
I'm coming to drink some beers on the 22nd.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there we go. That's kind of. You got anything else before we wrap it up here?
No, man. I was just everybody's been rodeoing and doing cowboy shit and
getting after it.
I think it's everyone's getting excited for Stampede and
and the opening of Barney's.
Yeah. Barney's is opening up on Saturday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I got my pigs out last night, so we started training them on the pig race track.
Yeah.
Did a few runs last night.
Oh, right on.
And so come out, we're weekends till June 30th, and we're full steam ahead.
Full steam ahead,
so
right
come
on.
to Barney's, come to Pearl.
Come and see the man.
Yeah.
Dustin,
we should head out there tonight. We should go check it out.
Barney's?
Share my pigs, yeah.
Hey, why not?
Let's do it.
What are their names? Do we got to name them?
We got Kevin Bacon the third. Then we got a Wilbur and Porky.
Okay, that's pretty good then.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. Hammy Potter was a fan favorite.
That is a good name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay, well, thanks again to our editor, Sean Morton, for making us not sound too bad every week. Appreciate you. Appreciate you cutting all the stuff that we shouldn't have on the show. So thanks for that, Sean. But yeah, thank you, Dustin, for doing this. Thanks to Allie for hosting us this evening, and we'll see you all again in a couple weeks.
She got me for my money, to my bloody dollar bill, snorted on my candy. Then we got all of her girls, now they lined up down the hallway, and I know they don't love me. But to come to get the money, ooh,